Let's talk a little bit about what to do if your cleaning station's not working properly. So I've taken the extruder fans off in this case, and the covers off of both the front and back side of the arm, so we can see a little bit better what's going on. So let's just run a prime cycle on all three of these extruders and see how the cleaning action looks. So the first thing I'll want to do is come to my control screen, and I could turn everything on here, but the temperatures of these materials are different enough that I think I want to do it manually. So in tool 3, I have my TPU, so I'm going to set both my active temperature and my standby temperature to 230. Tool 4 is PVA, so I'll set that to 190. And tool 5 is my PETG, set that to 225. And while those are heating up, let's look at our prime macro. So we go here to macros, prime, edit. So this is the extent of the macro. There are only 3 lines of code here, and it's just saying prime these 3 extruders, so 3, 4, and 5. And it's worth noting that if you just wanted to prime one of these, you can copy the G-code from the macro, Control-C, get out of there, and then just type it in your G-code console, either here or here. So I'm saying just prime tool 3. So when I hit go, it should bring up tool 3 and send it to the cleaning station for a prime cycle. So let's just run all of those now. So the first thing we want to check is the cleaning station coming out to the right location? How large is the puck of material that is extruded from each of the print heads during the prime cycle? And then is the nozzle cleaned effectively? Okay, so those all look pretty good. There is some difference in the amount of material that's extruded from each print head. So we could make some adjustments there. But what I'd rather talk about is if the cleaning station isn't working properly, how do we adjust it? So these 2 screws in the slotted holes here allow us to adjust the location of the cleaning station in or out with respect to the nozzle. So when we do make an adjustment there, though, we have to be careful because we can not just move them in or out, but there's also enough clearance in those slotted holes that the cleaning station is also moved up or down when we do that. So if the prime function isn't working properly, there are a couple things that could be going wrong. If the cleaning station is too far out, it will actually block the extruder from pushing out material. So let's move it out here and rerun that prime cycle. So this will create a lot more pressure in the hot end, and you can hear the extruder stalling there. So some materials that flow more easily, like PVA, will still be pushed out. PETG as well, but you saw the urethane did not flow nearly as well. So this leads to a much more irregular situation of the print head as we bring it down to print. So we've primed it with a lot of pressure, a lot of back pressure, and we don't know very well how much material to push out to replace the retraction that we do at the end of the cleaning cycle. So we don't want the prime surface to be smashed all the way against the nozzle. We want to move it back a little bit. And it is helpful to make a couple marks on this bracket here to show where you were last with your screw heads. So let's bring them back again, so about the edge of the Allen wrench. And you can see I'm moving up or down as well. The cleaning station's getting moved, not just forward and back. So let's rerun it now. And that looks better. The prime surface is close enough that the material is pushed into a puck form, and it's not just a string, but it's not so close that it creates too much back pressure on the nozzle. If the cleaning station were too far back, the material would just kind of string out and not form a puck of material, so then the cleaning action wouldn't work nearly as well. So the next thing to verify is whether or not the turret is in the proper location when we go to clean each of our nozzles. So for that, we have to go to our T-prime subroutines and check what turret position we're calling when the cleaning action is actually occurring. So here's our prime function, where we heat up the nozzle and extrude some filament to prime, and then move the nozzle so that it faces the pliers. So this is the code that will actually define the location of the nozzle when it's being cleaned. So let's say Control-C on that line, and let's get out of here. And then before we type this code in and send the turret there, though, we have to unlock the turret. There's a latching mechanism in the turret that locks it in place when the tools are in their primary positions. So we have to come down here and say unlock. So that releases that latch, and then we'll put this code in, and this will send the turret to the location for tool 3, where it would be cleaned by the blades. So now we can come over to the machine, and with our hands just slide the cleaning station forward and close the blades by pushing inward, and check that the blades align properly with the nozzle. So if they don't, we can adjust that turret position to get better alignment. And this is part of our checkout procedure for the machine. So when you get the machine, it should be dialed in. If you do move the cleaning station, you need to at least check one nozzle and find the U position that is the correct offset, and then you should be able to offset the other positions by the same amount in order to get them properly aligned as well. But you can do it one at a time also. It looks like the nozzle is just a little bit high. Since I have the turret unlocked, I can come down here to my jog functions on my U axis and just make slight adjustments until I have the turret in the position that I want. And that looks good. So I changed that location by 0.3 degrees. I increased it by 0.3 degrees. So now we're at U of 85 instead of 84.7. So I'll go back to my settings and come down to my T-prime 3 and enter that value here. So instead of 84.7, I'm going to say I want that at 85. So now I know that the nozzle's in the right position when I go to clean it. Now, because I know that previously I had dialed in the positions for all of the nozzles relative to the cleaning station's prior position, I can just go to my T-prime 4 macro and increase the value here by 0.3. So instead of 156.4, I'll go to 156.7. And the same thing with T-prime 5. Okay, and now let's go back and run that prime cycle again. And you can see there the PVA pulled out just a little bit. So with some materials, they stick a little bit more to the prime surface than others. So when you're switching to a new material, you may have to adjust the location of the cleaning station or some of the details of the prime feature. So it also depends a lot on temperature. The hotter the material is, the stickier it is in general with thermoplastics.